Hello everyone, you welcome to this news. I am Barley Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, persons with visual impairment take to the streets in the southwest regional chief town, Boya. They went protesting against the violation of the right, the sale of portions of land belonging to the center dedicated to them. Also in this newscast, we'll talk about the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, that has once more called on the Cameroon government to free all journalists detained in the Kondengi Central Prison and other detention facilities across the country. The CPJ qualifies Cameroon as one of the leading jailers of journalists in Africa. Two persons have been crushed to death in a road accident in Chang in the west region of the Republic of Cameroon, and elsewhere scores of persons escaped death in another road accident in Santa, that is in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. Their vehicle lost control and landed in a valley. For me, I'm Santa has more.
Their torn dresses on the tarmac, broken pieces of the windscreen, testifying the seriousness of the road accident. Few meters away from the municipal stadium in Chang, Menua division of the west region of Cameroon. Locals say the accident left a septuagenarian and a grandchild crushed dead. They were returning from the town of Bafoussam when the interurban vehicle stopped by the road to offload. Upon alighting, they were immediately crushed by an overspeeding truck belonging to a brewery company, according to local sources. This local says the truck was on top speed when the accident occurred. He went further to reveal that the lady and child, who were supposed to be left at the motor park, insisted to continue into the heart of the town of Chang. While on the scene of the accident, municipal, administrative and security officials of Chang frowned at the excess speed of drivers within the town and also got angry with drivers who they say continue to offload along the highway in gross violation of a municipal injunction to that effect. In Santa, in the northwest region, scores of passengers escaped death in a Tuesday morning road accident. Local sources say the accident involved a 70-seater interurban transport bus that lost control and landed in a valley.
Persons with visual impairment hit the streets of the southwest regional capital, Boya, earlier today, protesting against violations of their rights, referring to the sale of portions of land belonging to the center dedicated to them and the interrupted circulation in the southwest regional chief town, Boya. And in the report coming up next, Derek Jato comes back to what happened.
The visually impaired persons are here on the street of Boya. We are at mile 16, the main gateway into the town of Boya, the southwest regional capital. Most of them are ex-trainees of the rehabilitation center for the blind here at mile 16. They have one worry. They are saying that their land has been sold and they cannot take it, and they're calling on the power that be to come and intervene. I spoke with one of them, a girl. She told me that the land is not for sale, and an attempt for a vehicle to pass. She left the camera and blocked the vehicle. They are not seeing, but any sound of a vehicle here, they move towards that direction.
I'm talking about because our land, they have sold our land. They have sold our land.
Who sold your land?
We don't know who is selling our land.
No, don't go that way.
No. Don't touch me. They have sold our land. They have sold
This is the main gateway into the town. As you can see, cars are blocked from the both sides of the road. The security forces equally are here. We are still waiting for the authorities, of course, to come and salvage the situation.
It's not for sale. They sell our land.
Which land is that?
Blue land, the school for the vision people. Our cry is that they should leave our land. They should leave our land, not for sale. The land is not for sale. So that's where we school. When we think like that, the other general, other vision people, where are they going to be? This is a school that Mr. Koko Beten, Tala and Joy Marie, what is that?
Behind me, the divisional officer for Boya, Abba Abdurrahman, is in the session with the visually impaired ex-trainees of the Boya Rehabilitation Center for the Blind. They are discussing that on the road. These visually impaired, most of them ex-trainees of the Rehabilitation Institute for the Blind here in Boya, say they have one problem. The land for the institution is being sold and someone is erecting a structure on it. They said they can't take it, and they have been writing and writing and writing, but what they have written to the administration seem not to bring the desired answer. Reason why they came to the street to demonstrate, and they have been blocking traffic now for the past 45 minutes. These visually impaired persons are calling on the powder B to come to their rescue and stop whosoever is constructing on their land. Derek Jatu, mile 16 for Equinoxe Television News.
The divisional officer for Boya told the protesters that the construction work going on the land belonging to the Center for Visually Impaired Persons in that part of the country will not continue, and this is how he succeeded to disperse them, to calm them down, promising to handle the problem as soon as possible. Derek Jato has more.
After convincing these visually impaired persons to leave this main entrance into Boya, the southwest regional capital, which they had blocked for close to an hour, the divisional officer for Boya subdivision, Abba Abdurrahman, is being led by these visually impaired persons to their institution, the Rehabilitation Institute for the Blind in Boya, at mile 16.
Not for sale! Not for sale!
As they sing that their land is not for sale, they went straight with the chief executive officer to show him what prompted them to take to the street. Pillars planted just meters away from the girls' dormitory, for instance. Responding, the divisional officer for Boya told them that all the constructions around here are all illegal.
And as it is, anybody working on it is violating an injunction order that has been placed more than 2 months ago and copied to the director of the institution. So anybody coming around, it means is going against. You just need to implement the measure that we have taken more than 2 months ago. Thank you.
Thank you very so much. And calling on the director of the institution to take his responsibility.
And people are continuing. You take the document to the police to stop the people. As simple as that. So, Monsieur Director, take your responsibility. There is an injunction order here. Except you tell me you went to police and police did not act.
They have copies of the injunction.
No, that's not how it is. Because you are at the corner here, you see people walking.
You want to thank Papa Gio.
Thanking the divisional officer for Boya, these ex-trainees of the Rehabilitation Institute for the Blind in Boya begged the power that be for the proper implementation of the decision.
Any man will pass again for this land as from today.
No trespass.
Them say he's supposed to be arrested.
Yes.
And circulation was later restored.
Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, has once more urged Cameroonian government authorities to free journalists in detention in the central prison, the Kondengi Central Prison in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and other detention facilities across the country. The CPJ qualifies Cameroon as a leading jailer of journalists in Africa. In a latest statement, the CPJ condemns these violations of the rights of journalists and the freedom or press freedom in the Republic of Cameroon. Senazi has more in this report.
BBC, Thomas Awa Jr. T. Conrad, Kingsley Njoka are just a few journalists incarcerated for years by government authorities in the Kundengi Central Prison and in other detention facilities across Cameroon. Most of these Anglophone journalists were arrested and jailed in connection with the Anglophone crisis, either for their reporting or accusations they had links with separatist fighters. Repeated calls by rights groups, journalism associations, politicians, civil society actors, religious authorities, and many others for government to free them have proven barren. The Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, on World Press Freedom Day once again published a statement calling on Cameroonian authorities to ensure the release of all jailed journalists so that they can live and work freely. CPJ stressed on the case of freelance journalist Kingsley Njoka, who has been in arbitrary detention without trial in Kundengi Central Prison Yaoundé for almost 2 years, to leave prison on compassionate grounds to attend his father's funeral on May 6, 2022. Njoka's father, Sheikh Rudolph Velanjoka, who will be buried on Friday, May 6 in Kikaikom village, Bui division of the Northwest region, died on April 25th. Kingsley Njoka, the freelance journalist, it should be recalled, was arrested on May 15, 2020 and held in incommunicado detention until he was charged on June 11 with cessation and complicity in an armed gang. He was suspected of managing pro-cessationist WhatsApp groups, including the Bui Warriors group based in Kumbu, Northwest region. According to Angela Quintal, CPG's Africa Program Coordinator, all attempts to get the reaction of the heads of Kundengi Central Prison, Amadou Madi, the state prosecutor in Yaoundé's military tribunal, Major Celine Belinga, either on telephone calls or texts via WhatsApping app, yielded no fruit. Since escalation of the Anglophone crisis, lives and work of English-speaking journalists in particular have been at stake. Some had been kidnapped and released by armed separatists. One, Samuel Wazizi, was allowed to die in military detention. Till date, circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery. His corpse is yet to be handed over by government authorities to his family. According to CPG's annual prison census, Cameroon is the 5th worst jailer of journalists in Africa, with 6 journalists behind bars on December 1, 2021.
Of Bangem in the Kupe Maningova Division, Southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon are decrying the abandonment of several developmental projects in that part of the country, and the situation is being attributed to the unstable socio-political and security climate reigning there and the rest of Anglophone Cameroon. It is with Immaculate Faway.
The main entrance into the Bangem prison invaded by grass. The building project, which was to be completed several years ago, has rather been abandoned, leaving it at the mercy of grass, goats, and other dangerous reptiles. The deserted site has made it a suitable hideout for hoodlums, resulting to rising insecurity.
The mere fact that this building, which is uncompleted, is somehow isolated is also worrisome because of the insecurity that may be posed because of the presence of this uncompleted building, given that hoodlums may take refuge there to be able to carry out some very heinous acts against our peace-loving people.
The abandoned project, according to locals, is a raison d'etre behind the overcrowded state of prisons in Boya and Kumba, respectively. This is because prisoners sentenced at the Court of First Instance and at the High Court of Bangem are rather transferred to these localities. Some locals say they are disappointed with the results on the ground.
This prison is abandoned here for about 12 years ago or more. Supposed to be one of the biggest prisons here in Southwest here. And we, the people who gave out the land to the government, we don't have access to use the land for now. They have abandoned it here.
Locals in Bangem are lamenting over the abandonment of many other projects which could help advance the development of the area.
Food insecurity currently witnessed in Cameroon stems from the conflict in the northwest region and northern regions of Cameroon, according to some researchers. Also, most of the food stores are wasted when in season, and high prices characterize the out of season periods. And researchers say Cameroon's solution to food insecurity can be resolved or found through the transformation of agricultural products. Details with Stella in Bamenda. Stella in Bamenda with details on food insecurity and findings of researchers as far as solutions to the problem is concerned.
And teachers of different schools assembled at the Cameroon Reunification Monument in Boya to commemorate the World Book Day organized by the Minister of Arts and Culture on April 30th, which
beneath these polythene bags are heaps of decomposing garbage, majority of which are vegetables and fruits. When in season, excesses are disposed as waste in huge quantities, while high prices characterize the out-of-season period. Professor Sucho Emmanuel, Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of teaching, professionalization and development of information and communication technologies at the University of Bamenda, says this wastage can be minimized via transformation.
The transformation of agricultural products adds value to what you eventually bring to the market, and it requires a lot of knowledge coming from food science, knowledge coming from engineering, knowledge coming from marketing. So you require all these skill sets to be able to transform farm products into finished products, whether you can them or you put them in bottles. All of that requires a lot of research. And that's why we're saying that for food security systems in the sub-region, the answer does not lie only in producing crops in the fields, it also lies in transforming them.
The food shortages already witnessed in Cameroon is further compounded by the health pandemic and the war in Ukraine. In a bid to ameliorate the prevailing circumstances, the Cameroon Association of Young Scientists organized a workshop at the University of Bamenda with aims of inspiring the young researchers to have a mindset which aims at improving the needs of Cameroonians through its own resources rather than with external outputs.
We should be able to look at our own local realities. How can our realities improve or encourage or foster the growth and development of our nation, Cameroon? The war in Ukraine, now we are buying a piece of bread that was sold at 100 francs, is 150 francs, and a kilogram of flour has risen. These are all things that need to be researched upon. There are lots and lots of resources that we have in Cameroon, and until we research upon this and bring the knowledge to the public, we will still be living in the dark.
The workshop under the theme Made in Cameroon for Industrialization and Sustainable Economic Development is in prelude to the second edition of the National Scientific Eloquence Contest dubbed 3 Minutes to Convince Case under the patronage of the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation and the Ministry of Mines, Industry and Technological Development.
The reading culture is fast disappearing in Cameroon. Reading a book today has become a very difficult thing for many, and according to educational authorities or experts, the problem is rooted at the base of the educational ladder, with the absence of libraries in several or majority of the primary schools across the country, and a few existing ones underutilized. And how to revive the reading culture in Cameroonians was at the center of the celebration of the World Book Day at the weekend at the Reunification and Independence, or Independence and Reunification Monument in Boya, southwest region of Cameroon. Details with Mara Glory.
Pupils and teachers of different schools assembled at the Cameroon Reunification Monument in Boya to commemorate the World Book Day organized by the Minister of Arts and Culture on April 30th, which was initially celebrated on the 23rd of April. The aim of this day's celebration is to inculcate the culture of reading in the children.
The foundation of the world is built on education. And so the ministry's mission is to empower the kids, especially to develop the culture of books and book reading. We are celebrating this day to rekindle the spirit of reading. Reason why we have chosen a certain strata of the population, that is the pupils of the primary school, where the foundation is, to cultivate this habit of reading.
In the course of the event, the administrators noted that several schools in the locality function without well-equipped libraries.
That's why I told them that I'm visiting them after this to make sure that their libraries are functional. From here, they will know the reason why they came, the importance of books, so that they will be able to hold books like their friends. I asked them one question. You people eat every day, right? They say yes. I say, okay, from now hence, you will learn to hold books as if you are eating good food, so that you enjoy the book just as you are enjoying food, then you see the value of books.
Senator Charles Mbela Moki, present at the occasion, encouraged these primary school pupils to read more, for it is the only way to acquire knowledge.
This was very encouraging, and I thought I should be part of it. It shows how much the government of this country is investing in the building of their capacities, in preparing them for a better tomorrow, in educating them in various aspects that are contained in the books that are before them. Not just that, but giving them a culture of reading.
The World Book Day is an annual event organized by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization to promote reading, publishing and copyright, though timidly celebrated in Cameroon.
And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. Our guest today is Mimi Mefo, Cameroonian journalist working with Dutch Vela, founder and CEO of Mimi Mefo Info. Mimi Mefo, you're welcome.
Jonathan, it's such a wonderful pleasure to be on the other side. You know, usually I'll be the interviewer and probably you'll be the interviewee, but it's the other way around this time around. Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you today, Mimi Mefo. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Now we're going to be talking about the precarious socio-economic situation of the press in the Republic of Cameroon. Mimi Mefo, you were here with us and you understand everything that's happening within the media landscape in the Republic of Cameroon. What is your take on the economic situation of the press in your country today?
Well, when you talk about economic situation, it's such a broad term, Babla, I must say, because I wouldn't want to get into the nitty-gritty of how many media houses function in the country, because I do not have a mastery of their balance sheet. But let me narrow this to the situation of journalists who collectively make up the media in Cameroon. Many journalists, I want it to be very, very simple. Let's not use the big economic term that many people would not understand, that our viewers, who are, some of them are market sellers, journalists like you and I, even taxi drivers would not understand. Many journalists are not having good pay. They do not have good salaries. When you do not have a good salary like a journalist, you do not have enough confidence. For instance, if you have to interview a minister who is way too richer than you as a journalist, how are you going to have that confidence to interview a minister when that psychological, that it's already registered here psychologically on your mind that this is somebody who is way above me? If the journalist was well paid in Cameroon, such that you have that confidence knowing that, you know, you can talk to anyone. That's why you see journalists on the international scene, journalists working with international media. They can interview just anyone because they have that confidence. They do not feel inferior to any minister, to any president, because they are well paid. Another problem is wardrobe. Like this dress, I'm wearing this attire today. If you are interviewing me tomorrow, I'll not have to wear this because everybody will be able to spot it that Mimi wore this yesterday. And what you're putting on right now, Babla, you cannot put it on tomorrow because many people will be able to see that you're wearing the same attire. So if you can change your wardrobe, if you cannot change your wardrobe every day on a daily basis like you should do, how would you be able to have that confidence? That's what many journalists in Cameroon do not have. We do not have wardrobe allowance. Of course, some private media houses like Equinoxe, I don't know, of course, the state media, they do have that. But so many media houses in Cameroon, they do not have wardrobe allowances. And there's also another problem of this actually leads to what we call professional prostitutes. I wouldn't want to say it actually forces many journalists to go corporate. You see, many journalists today are going for the bigger bidder. They want to work for that employer who is going to give them a lot of money. So it all boils down to what you earn as a media worker. When I'm talking media worker, I mean reporters, I'm talking about cameramen and women, I'm also talking about the technicians.
Right. According to Reporters Without Borders, journalism is an extremely precarious profession in Cameroon, and this undermines the independence of the practitioners. Do you agree with this description, an extremely precarious profession in Cameroon?
Well, precarious profession, economically, yes, like I just said, low pay. Sometimes the problems come from the government. Sometimes they come from our employers because they have to make sure that we are all comfortable. Like you said earlier, I'm also an employer. I am founder of the Mimefo Info platform. I also work with journalists. I understand some of these problems. I also work with DW and I understand these problems. When they say precarious, it also means the security aspect of it. So many journalists now have dropped their pens in Cameroon because they cannot work freely. You earlier talked about Wazizi in the course of this newscast. Today, we haven't found his body yet because he died in detention. He was killed in detention. So many journalists today are working under very, very difficult conditions because of the socio-political situation that is reigning in the country. So globally, it's very difficult to be a journalist in Cameroon. We have colleagues who are behind bars. I heard Innocent Aze reporting that just a few minutes ago. We have journalists who are on exile. I am one of them. For instance, I have so many colleagues who are out of the country who cannot come back because they were simply reporting independently and they cannot practice. They cannot continue to practice in Cameroon because they are not going to be safe. So when they say precarious, it's all of these, economic, social, and even political. It's not safe to be a journalist in Cameroon. The owner of Equinoxe TV, for instance, the general manager, Severin Chunko, was suspended for 1 month. Cedric Nufele, who was one of the most brilliant journalists we've got in Cameroon, was suspended for 1 month. So when the Reporters Without Borders say this, they are looking into all of these dynamics, which are really not working in favor of journalists in the country.
Factors that are creating an enabling environment for this precarious situation to prevail. It's been so for so many years.
That's right, Babla. Was that a question? Because I don't think I got you.
What are the factors that are creating an enabling environment for this precarious situation to continue prevailing?
Well, we have to understand that journalism is the backbone of every country's democracy, and Cameroon is not an exception. You understand? I will blame some media owners first because most of them see the media as a business and not this backbone of the country's democracy. If media proprietors start seeing the media or journalists as this backbone, like most of our colleagues would say, there's the first part, the second part, and the third part. I think journalism is the first part because without journalists, the society is not going to function normally. There are so many things that the government is failing to do. There are so many tasks that journalists are doing, so many things that journalists are doing that the government is not doing. The role of journalists is that important that it's if they are not supported, if they are not well paid, you know, it's going to really be difficult for them to function normally.
What do you think about the fact that the government authorities who should play the role of regulation, ensuring that journalism or media organs are not just business entities? I mean, commercial media organs are not just business entities, but are considered as real institutions that should function with all the rules, respecting all the labor rules. What do you think about the fact that the authorities allow this to prevail?
Why would the government allow that to happen, or make sure that everything goes well with the media when they believe that the media is the enemy? That's the question. The media to the government of Cameroon is the enemy. The media is everything bad is happening with the media. So why would the government facilitate everything for the media when, according to the government of Cameroon, the media is the enemy? Journalists have been arrested and jailed on a daily basis. Like the collective convention, for instance, is never been effectively implemented. For those who do not understand what the collective convention is an agreement that was put in place to facilitate the work of journalists, to ensure that they have better pay. But this has never come into fruition because the government is not playing its role. Media owners are also not playing their role. Why would the government facilitate that when it's making work easier for them? The government cannot make things easier for the media, because if the media is economically powerful, it becomes a threat to them. If a journalist is that journalist that can talk to the government, hold the government to account, and why should the media even rely on the government in the first place? Because if the journalist starts relying on the media, if the journalist starts relying on the government, how independent are you going to be as a media? That's the question.
To Ivory Coast, where aid to the private press is amounting to more than $1 billion, Cameroon offers less than that amount, less than half of that amount, to its numerous private media organs. Is that not a problem also?
Well, it's a problem maybe to journalists in Cameroon, but to journalists in Ivory Coast, unfortunately, I haven't worked as a journalist in Ivory Coast. But to the best of my knowledge, this is one of the countries in Africa which has experienced a lot of coup d'etats. And as a result, you are looking at the political situation. Journalists somehow are allowed to work freely. There are so many journalists, some activists, some individuals who cannot speak freely in Cameroon who are currently working freely in Ivory Coast. So that speaks for itself, Babila.
Tell us about the fact that, or the impact of this precarious situation of the press on the independence of media organs, the independence of individual journalists, the performance, the respect of ethics and deontology of the profession.
Let me take, for instance, The Guardian or even the BBC. I'm currently in the UK and I see how it works. The BBC depends on the government for funding, to pay its journalists and so on. But you would see the BBC reporting and holding authorities here to account. You would see the BBC holding even the British Prime Minister to account. It doesn't affect the smooth functioning of the media out of the country. Deutsche Welle, where I work, for instance, our editorial policies, they've got nothing to do with what. That's why I can even write an opinion piece on the United States, and the Deutsche Welle would not say that it's going to affect the relationship between Germany and the US. But that's not what actually prevails in Cameroon. So you are talking about the impact of all of this to the profession. You're talking about the impact. The motivational level is very, very low. When journalists are not well paid, when we have all of these problems, these problems that keep compounding in the sector, journalists are not motivated. And also, they are always looking for other jobs. You see a journalist who move, like I earlier said, you see they become professional prostitutes, because one journalist is working here today, tomorrow you hear he is working with a radio station. After 5 years, you discover that some journalists have actually worked with at least 10 media houses. Why do they do that? It's because they are not getting the best. They are not being paid. They are not getting what they want to get. You know, that is the bottom line.
How can this situation be addressed?
Of course, that's what we are advocating for. We want better pay, and if media owners take engagement, you have to pay this amount of money to a journalist. Make sure you pay and you respect that deadline. It's very, very important. We have to empower journalists and also the citizens. I want to use this opportunity to also appreciate those who, like you said earlier, manager, founder of Mimepo Info platform. Sometimes we have support from independent individuals. Some are even foreigners. They are not even Cameroonians. If media houses, for the Guardian, for instance, when you go and read the Guardian, at the end of the Guardian website, it's written, if you want to support, it's just a statement. You can support with even just 100 francs or 1,000 francs or 500 francs CFA or even 300 francs CFA. If every Cameroonian, how many Cameroonians are there? We are almost 30 million, not up to 30 million. But let's say even 1/3 of that number can be given Equinoxe television just 100 francs a month. Just a month. Do you know how much help that would be to the media house? This is just a suggestion. Because sometimes we say, okay, we want support from the government. We also want support from the media owners, but also the role of those who are there consuming the information for free. Like now you're doing the news, the audience is there consuming. If adverts don't come in, how would Equinoxe have money to pay its workers? How would the other media houses have money to pay the workers? And the adverts are always never enough because the workers are too many. So we, as media owners, also need that support from the audience. It's never too little. You can always help. That help is really, really needed, especially at this point in time when the media is supposed to be very, very accountable, when the media is not supposed to be depending on the government. Because the more the media relies on the government, the less independent the media is going to be. If the media is supposed, when the population would support the media will be able to hold the government to account even more. But every day we keep asking about government subvention. The government cannot subvent you, especially the government we have in Cameroon. The government cannot subvent a media and allows it to work freely. That is the problem, Babila.
Mimi Mefo, Cameroonian journalist with Deutsche Welle, founder and CEO of Mimi Mefo Info. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. In less than 20 minutes, Serge Lomoto and his guest will be yours with Equinoxe Soir. Stay with us.